if even the suspicion arises that people are not telling the truth because they're being paid to lie, I think that's an incredibly I know, because I just exited 30 years in that business. That's very corrosive. So I hope that is not happening in any widespread way, and I hope that it ends, because I mean, more than anything, I would much rather be wrong. I have been wrong a million times, including about big things, but I don't want to be dishonest, and I don't want to be seen as dishonest. Both for my own reasons of integrity, but also because that, like, why would anyone watch you if you're a liar? Like, no one wants to watch a liar. It's not worth your time. That's why I stopped reading the New York Times. I don't want it in my head. I don't know what's a lie and what's not. Just get away from me.
What's really happening behind the scenes in the corridors of power? Tucker Carlson delivers a chilling yet deeply insightful analysis of truth, deception, and the state of our crumbling civilization. In this candid conversation, Tucker pulls back the curtain on the corrosive influence of dishonesty in media, explaining why the integrity of the message is vital, not just for credibility, but for society itself. He reflects on his 30 years in journalism, revealing why trust is so easily eroded when narratives are driven by hidden agendas and financial incentives. Tucker also takes aim at the global political machine, dissecting how permanent Washington prioritizes foreign policy and endless wars over solving pressing domestic issues. From indictments and smear campaigns to the erosion of free speech in English-speaking democracies, he paints a grim picture of a collapsing empire rife with nihilism and self-destruction. But Tucker doesn't stop there. He explores the deeper battle, one between light and darkness, good and evil, that has played out across civilizations for millennia. Are we witnessing the final days of a once great power? Or is there a way back from the brink? Prepare to question everything you know about the media, politics, and the soul of modern civilization. This is Tucker Carlson at his most raw, reflective, and thought-provoking.
I just think it's important to keep in mind that purity of spirit is detectable by others. People know who's being honest, who's saying something as, I really believe this, that's why I'm saying it. And I think people can feel that. And don't take a dark path. Like, there's enough money in this country. You don't need to destroy yourself and your credibility for 50 grand. Like, that's not a good trade for you or anyone else, I don't think. It's not even about the people. I am very concerned that the people who have hated Trump for 8 years and run out of ways to destroy him, indicting him, well, first calling him a racist, spying on him with the federal intel agencies, sicking the FBI on him, trying to put him in prison at least twice, probably more, actually, but at least twice. And so I've been pretty fixated on that for months, probably more than a year. Just thought a lot about it, and I know a lot of the people involved, and they're very, very, very focused on war. Permanent Washington doesn't care about domestic policy, in case your viewers, I'm sure, know this, but just want to restate it. They don't care about domestic policy. They don't care about fixing the country. They don't care about that. What they care about is exercising power abroad. And that's where the money is, trillions of dollars. So they care about foreign policy. The complicity of Western European countries in this, really, I hope books are written about it, but there's something about a dying empire, collapsing demographically, totally pointless finance-based economy, no self-respect at all, nihilism rising. There's something about that mix, the final days of a dying civilization. It's really the darkest thing I could. So you imagine Rome collapsing and, the Vandals toppling buildings, and, really it's the end of an empire is more like a kind of suicide, a kind of murder-suicide, where, the formerly great power kills itself and then takes a lot of people out as it does. It's like more horrifying than I ever thought, reading about the end of Rome. And I think it's probably pretty consistent over time. There's like deep stuff going on here that I don't, trust me, I do not pretend to understand all of this stuff, but like the behavior of France and particularly Great Britain, which itself has become totalitarian, where lots of Britons, native-born Britons, are in prison for posting social media opinions, and they're in jail for that. Like, that's not a free country. Right. It's a totalitarian country. Same with Canada. Same with New Zealand. Same with Australia. It's like, what the hell is going on? It'll be hundreds of years before some wise person can assess what happened to the English-speaking world 20 years into the 21st century. But all at once, they decided to kill themselves and a lot of other people on the way out. It's really amazing. There's a war in the unseen world between light and darkness, good and bad. It's been described by every civilization since the beginning of time, so I think we can assume it's real. And you do see that, expressions of good, manifestations of good are sometimes followed, and vice versa, by outbursts of evil. If I'm being honest, and I always want to be honest, you say things you believe are true. That's your obligation. Well, your obligation, only reverse it, is not to ever say anything you know to be untrue, not to lie. Okay.
Right.
On the other hand, are you under any kind of obligation to say everything you believe is true? No. I mean, I have thoughts about, things that are embarrassing or not relevant to anything. I could be completely wrong, or, right. He's gained a lot of weight. Probably not going to share that. They're hurtful for no good purpose.
What happens when the truth becomes a taboo? Tucker Carlson breaks down the unspoken truths of American life and the corruption that plagues the media, government, and society. From the absurdity of federal agents lying with impunity to the collapse of cable news credibility, Carlson exposes the shallow, repetitive narratives dominating legacy media. With platforms like Elon Musk's X and Joe Rogan's podcasting revolution reshaping the landscape, he envisions a freer, more honest future if we can resist the pull of corruption. Can trust be restored, or are we doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past? Carlson challenges us to confront the uncomfortable truths we've been taught to ignore.
So you don't want to be that person. You don't want to cause harm for no reason. You want to be constructive and kind. On the other hand, there are also some facts of American life that are very obvious, that are never spoken out loud, partly because, people seek to be polite and not to hurt other people without cause, and partly because people are afraid to say the most obvious things. And that's certainly true in our political realm. And so there are plenty of things that I believe to be true that I don't say, either because they're hurtful, I'm not sure they're right, or they're just so overwhelming that it's like, okay, I don't really know quite what to do about that. So it might be better just to state affirmatively what you would like your country to be, which is sovereign, capable of acting in its own interest. That's really important. Honest. You'd want a government that just says what it's doing and why it's doing it, tells you the truth as a matter of law. Like, you're not allowed to lie to the public. Why should you be allowed to lie? It's illegal to lie to a federal agent, as everyone knows, and many of my friends have found out the hard way, but it is not illegal for them to lie to you. So it's like, who came up with that system? Anyway, these are our employees, but they can lie to us. I catch my housekeeper lying. If I catch her in my safe and she won't say what she's doing there, she's out. But in the federal system, it's like, you can catch the feds in your safe. They don't have no obligation to tell you why they're there. And there's nothing you can do about it. In fact, if you complain, they'll put you in jail. So clearly, we've got a screwed up system. But yeah, there's a lot that's unsaid. And there are also, of course, taboos. And we grew up in a society that was governed much more than we realized by taboos, things you just don't say. And both of us are from, basically Anglo backgrounds, which is a culture that doesn't say everything out loud already. So, it's a process of learning to articulate things you've taught not to articulate, figuring out, what's a helpful way to say something, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Just to bottom line it, there are huge facts, determinative facts about American life and politics that are never said out loud. That is absolutely right. Sorry. Well, I would just start by saying there's nothing more corrupt than what we have. So I'm glad that it's going away. There's nothing shallower than cable news. There's life in it. So for them to say, the public is reaching conclusions we disagree with because they're not watching long and they're getting all their news from TikTok or something. I just want to restate, there's nothing shallower, dumber, more repetitive, more controlled, less informative than cable news. I think I can say that with authority, so can you. So if they're claiming that the other guys are just not up to their level of journalism or rectitude, that, it's just dogs barking. It means nothing to me. Obviously, we're entering a much freer, more open period. Elon Musk deserves 100% of the credit for that because he has this platform at scale, the only one at scale that's open. Joe Rogan deserves the credit for creating an entire new genre, podcasting, from which I'm benefiting. So I'm grateful to Joe Rogan, and I mean that. Plus, I love Joe Rogan anyway. But he did that. single-handedly. So, and I guess we're both beneficiaries of it. He created this thing like it didn't exist before. It's an amazing thing. And, if the world were fair, then, everyone in the media would be tipping a hat to him. Like, did you invent the newspaper? Did you invent radio? Did you invent television? I don't think so. Joe Rogan essentially invented podcasting. I mean, he made it clear to everybody else that this could both have an effect and be a real business. Who thought that would be true? He proved it. Here are my concerns. No, I don't have too many concerns. Here's something that annoys me. If there's a lesson of what happened to television and newspapers, print, and legacy media, they died because they were corrupt. I mean, the business models changed, et cetera, et cetera. There are ways they won't evolve. Like the people who work at NBC News will not have careers in journalism 10 years from now. And the reason they won't is not because of technology. It's because they have no credibility because they're corrupt. They're liars. So that's really the lesson. Corruption kills you, especially in a business predicated on trust, which is the media. Don't emulate that. Don't be corrupt. And, there are people on social media, influencers on both sides, and we're learning more about it now, who took money in order to endorse certain people or ideas. That's corrupt. I mean, look, I take advertising. I think you do too. It's okay to say, I'm being paid to promote this product. And by the way, I like the product or whatever you say, but it's very clear you're being paid to promote something. Secretly promoting things for money is, maybe you make, a decent living doing that. But over time, it devalues your currency and makes people not believe you, not trust you. Why would they? And there was some of that in this last cycle. And I hope the people who did it will just admit that they did it and be very open about it. And I hope it's not like a story we find out about in 5 years and all of a sudden, people don't trust us anymore as a result of the behavior of a few people. Does that make sense?
Do you feel the craziness right now?
Overwhelming. And I feel like one of my great advantages in life is I, grew up around a fair amount of craziness and I'm not bothered by it. And I try never to be busy. I hate being busy. I think people who are busy it's a sign of kind of narcissism and disorganization if you complain about being busy. But I feel both busy and a little bit shocked. I would say I've reached my limit, and I have a very high limit. I've been with Trump in a lot of different countries, and he's always the same guy. So he's great. I mean, he's like the most entertaining, the most interesting. He has perceptions that you wouldn't kind of come to by yourself. He's insightful. He's not like a genius in a conventional sense, but he has an intuitive sense that's honestly brilliant. I mean, you don't get to be president by accident, especially the way that he did it. No, he's an amazing person, and I don't think anybody who spent time with him, and he's a very warm person, as you know. He's a legit warm guy.
What happens when a society is built on classified documents and hidden truths? Tucker Carlson dives deep into the overwhelming culture of secrecy that corrupts our institutions and erodes public trust. He paints a vivid picture of the leaders who refuse to back down. Donald Trump, with his unshakable resilience, and figures like Tulsi Gabbard and Bobby Kennedy, who have faced relentless attacks, yet emerged stronger. Tucker unpacks the toxic grip of lies, questioning how long the public will tolerate being shielded from the truth. He argues that courage, forged through hardship and humiliation, is the cornerstone of real leadership. But is America ready for a revolution of transparency?
There's so much swirling around him that's intense, and some of it's very, very dark, and efforts to kill him, obviously. He never seems bothered by it, and I don't really understand. And his physical stamina, I don't know how a man, as I said, 55, if I ate like a Big Mac and then an ice cream sundae, which I love to do, by the way, first of all, I get really, really quick, like immediately. The next day I can't fit in my pants, and I'm totally out of energy and spacey, and just bad food affects me. I think it affects all of us. It does not affect him. It's the weirdest thing you've ever seen. He scarf a Big Mac and he's like totally on it. I don't know. He's got a different metabolism. Just physiologically, he's different. I think he's learned a bunch. He's learned the depth of the corruption of the systems that run the country, of the institutions that we live under. the Department of Justice, the intel world. He made Tulsi Gabbard director of national intelligence. It's just really an amazing fact. It's amazing. Bobby Kennedy at HHS, incredible. Dr. Oz at CMS. Marty McCary, I think, at FDA. I mean, he put reformers, like real reformers, not kidding around reformers, in key positions. So that's a sign of what he often says, which is the system is corrupt. Drain the swamp is a synonym for the system is corrupt. He knows that. Second thing, I think he understands, I mean, look how quickly they've made some of these appointments. Well, all of them. It's been 2 weeks and they've got almost every cabinet position. Treasury's still open. There may be another, possibly. Veterans Affairs, I'm losing track, but in general, they filled every position in 2 weeks. And third and most important, I think he has learned the lesson a lot of us learn over time, which is you can't trust anyone who hasn't been humiliated in public. Unless someone's really been through it, been fired from his job, accused of a crime, and stayed true to what he believes, hasn't collapsed inside and become Michael Cohen. It's only people like that you can really trust under pressure. And I certainly feel that way in my life, which is why when I got fired from my last job, the people I brought with me are the people who came with me, because they've been through all this stuff and I knew who they were. It's easy to be, a great person if there's no pressure applied to you. But when things start to fall apart, people move in directions you can't anticipate. So you want tough people. Courage is the indispensable requirement, I think, for leadership. It's, it's easy to say or even to believe the right things, but it's harder to carry them out under fire. And so I do think he's appointed people who've been through it. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard has been through it. Bobby has been through it. Matt Gaetz, whatever you think, has been through it. So I do think, and I believe this, that Trump picked Gaetz and people like Gaetz because he knows who they are and they know who they are because they've been forced to learn. Bobby Kennedy, and I'm sorry to keep going back to Bobby Kennedy, I've spent a lot of time with him in the last 6 months. Bobby Kennedy, I think, is the perfect example of this. Bobby Kennedy's led quite a varied life with ups and downs and with behavior he's not proud of, and it's well known. And the people who oppose rooting out corruption have tried to blackmail him many, many times on the basis of that, publicly and privately. And he has the same line every time, which is, I've got so many skeletons in my closet, if they could all vote, I'd be elected king. He just says, they're like, yeah, if you're accusing me of something bad, I'm sure it's true. But I still think what I think, and here's what I believe, and why don't you rebut those arguments? No one ever wants to. They want to just get you off the stage by attacking you personally. But the point of keeping all of this stuff secret is to use it as leverage against the people on whom it's collected, obviously. My view just in general is I'm against secrets. If I'm keeping a secret from my wife, it's probably not good. It's probably not. I mean, I'm not,
right.
You know what I mean? Nobody wants his secrets revealed, but big picture, if you live in a society with a lot of secrets, you live in a society in which, criminal behavior is rampant, and we do. So, declassify it all. And so the fact that the public stands for this and allows secrecy to be used as a tool of control, which it is a lot, and I've seen it, is shocking to me. People should say, no, you cannot classify 1 billion federal documents. On what grounds? Who gave you the right to do that? Just because you're in the job that determines classification doesn't give you the right to hide the truth from the public who own that information. So yeah, I'm with MTG. If we're going to release, and of course they're going to leak it as they leak everything, well, let's leak all the ethics committee reports, and then the people involved can tell you whether or not that's true, and they can defend themselves, and if there's countervailing evidence, we can see it. And just like sunlight, that's the answer. Sunlight. Stop lying. No more lying. Lying is bad. Lying corrodes. It corrupts all of us. We're all participating in a system based on lies, and that degrades us. It diminishes us.